Hey, what's going on YouTube? My name is Curtis. We're still on the AWS Explained Simply series. This week we're going to be talking about S3. Last week we talked about EC2. So we're pretty much still on the foundations of AWS Cloud Storage. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. So Amazon Simple Storage is more than just file storage. You're pretty much going to encounter this through all your AWS studies, your career diagrams. It's pretty much the building blocks of AWS. It's the most essential service that's on AWS, and I don't think it will even exist without S3 because that's where you keep all your storage at for backups. Okay, so we're going to go to the next slide. So S3, it functions as like a giant secure cloud vault. So you pretty much, what I think about it is that you could pretty much put everything in the secure cloud vault. It doesn't have to be structured. It could be unstructured, and then you could just have it there for like sitting there forever. You can store any type of data inside. You could like documents, images, videos, right? So these are called objects. So object is pretty much a document or a video or any kind of image that you put in there. That's the object inside your S3 bucket, and your bucket essentially is it's where it keeps organized and holds your objects. So if you like type in like, hey, beach ball bucket, it will pull up. But when you name your bucket, it has to be globally unique. So what that means is that it can't be the same as somebody else's bucket out there in the world. It has to be something unique to you. So what I suggest that you go ahead and, do it, type on your business or your personality or something that you could easily remember. So AWS fully manages the underlying infrastructure. So what that means is that like when AWS fully manages it, you don't have to worry about the underlying infrastructure. All you have to worry about is making sure nobody gets to your S3 bucket and configuring it the way you want to. AWS is going to handle, it's going to make sure that it's going to be available and it's durable. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so like I said before, S3 is the ultimate building block for your cloud architecture. So you could host static website hosting. Pretty much you could upload your HTML code to your S3 bucket, and it's going to be available to anybody out there in the world like within seconds. That's the most cool thing about it, and it's going to have a global reach and a global impact. Backups and disaster recovery. This is underrated, but it's the most important reason why you would S3, because disaster recovery, say if you have an app, right, and you have 3 different availability zones, and your app needs to keep running. So we need somewhere where we're going to keep this storage in the S3 bucket, right? So if we have our like data backed up in the S3 bucket, and if our site goes down or something happens, we just have our stuff backed up in the S3 bucket, and we could continue operations as normal. And you could create disaster recovery strategies and backups. Okay, so use case, you could probably use it for like application storage logs, but it pretty much is up to you on your business case. Everybody else is different. I put CloudTrail logs because I'm into cybersecurity, so it's like, okay, I want the CloudTrail logs to go to my S3 bucket. The S3 bucket is going to go ahead and store the CloudTrail logs. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to be like, okay, I want to know who's talking to my services, who's talking to my systems, and I want to know what systems of mine are talking to someone out there in the world. I want to know the IP address. I want to know like what's going on, like between the communication between my systems and their systems. So and then later on I could do like analytics to find out what's going on, to find out there's like a breach or something like that, or something suspicious that I need to investigate. Okay, so data lakes is pretty much, data lakes, it's like, okay, you have like a U-Haul, right? And you have a U-Haul, you have all this storage, right? You're like, you put your couches, you put all this stuff in there, you don't care how it's organized, just put it in there, right? Data lakes serve the same purpose. It's pretty much, you put all your stuff in there, all the data that you don't need, like at the moment. Say for instance, you have like analytics on maybe sales in the summer or something like that, right? And you're trying to compare between, okay, What happened last year? How many sales did I get this year, or how many sales did I get this year compared to last year? And you can run analytics on it. It's pretty much you could put that data in a data lake and just leave it in there. It could be structured or unstructured, and you could just use it like later on when you get a chance to. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, engineered for unmatched durability with 11 dynes. So pretty much the more dynes you have, the more durable your application is going to be. So S3 automatically replicates your data across multiple availability zones within single AWS regions. So what that means is that, okay, so you have AZ1, AZ2, and AZ3. Say if you have your app, right, and it's running like maybe like AZ1, right? Say if AZ1 went down for some reason, right? AZ2 and AZ3 still has your data, so like nothing's like will like impact your business. It will just continue as like normal, and that's the most cool part about it, because when you upload your images and your documents to S3, S3 is going to replicate here, here, and here. So it's going to be replicated through all these AZ1 and AZ2 and AZ3. What a region is pretty much to say you're in California, right? And we know California is massive, it's huge, right? So there's going to be 3 different AZs in California. So what an AZ is essentially a data center that has electricity, has cooling, and has all the computers in there, like stuff that you don't have to worry about. And that's where all your data is going to be. And that's it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so when you're creating your S3 bucket, you have the option to enable encryption. So you have server side and you have client side. Server side is pretty much for beginners, or pretty much you don't really want to deal with the the encryption keys. So AWS manages the process for you. On a client side encryption, you encrypt the data locally before you even upload it to the cloud vaults. So pretty much when you do that from the client side, you upload to S3. S3 is looking at this like, what is this? It's pretty much garbled text because it's encrypted. Mainly what they use this for is pretty much you want to have like more control over your data, and more for like compliance reasons, because there are standards in the and for like governments like to keep people's data safe. So people are mandated to keep your data safe, so they have to keep it on premise, and they have to actually have the actual keys just in case something happens. And then you have multi-layer security on top of your S3 bucket, so you have IAM policies. So pretty much like, hey, I want certain users to have access to my S3 bucket, and I don't want certain users having access, right? You could do for certain users, and you can do it for groups. Bucket policies, on the other hand, is like, hey, do I really want my EC2 talking to my S3 bucket? Do I want to access into, or do I want my VPC accessing it, or my RDS, or my database, or something like that? So it's pretty much a resource-based rules. Access control is pretty much like who has, like, you want more control over who has access to your S3 bucket. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so when you are creating your S3 bucket, we talked about you can do enable encryption. You can enable versioning. Versioning is pretty much allows you to keep multiple variants of your object in the same bucket. They mainly do this for, like, I don't know, somebody accidentally deletes it or modifies it. But then you have version 1, version 2, version 3. So say for instance, if somebody like accidentally, I don't know, deleted version 1, you still have version 2 and version 3 to go back off. So it's pretty much just like, okay, somebody like accidentally deletes it, and you still have those other versions. Lifecycle policies, on the other hand, say, for instance, you have like a bucket in the standard, right, on S3, and you just like, you don't really want to manually just keep on like transferring data to other S3 buckets, like, and maybe storage like Glacier or Deep or Flexible or even infrequent access. So what we could do is like, okay, After 30 days, as the data sits here, I want to transfer this data after 30 days to like a Glacier Vault or a Glacier Flexibility or a frequent access. It depends on what you want to do. If you have compliance, or you could do like a Glacier Vault, or if you need it to be like accessible but it's infrequent, you could do infrequent access or Glacier Flexibility. It just kind of depends on your use case. Okay, and pre-signed URLs, it's like, okay, like I said before, not everybody can have access to your S3 bucket. So you can have a pre-signed URL. Okay, so let's do an example. Say if you, for example, you have a PDF, right, and you have like an invoice that you want to show to a client. So you could create a pre-signed URL that's only accessible to that client. The client could access that pre-signed URL, just click on a link, and it's only going to be accessible to that client. And let's go to the next slide. Okay, yeah, so that's it. Yeah, S3 is pretty much going to be the essential core of your cloud career. You're going to come across this too. I don't know, you're using like Kinesis, you're going to be using CloudWatch. I don't know, like the world is full of unlimited possibilities within AWS. You're going to come across this, so go ahead and learn it, go ahead and master it, and you should be okay. And that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. If you have a good day, I appreciate it. If you have any concerns, comments, or just go ahead and leave it in the comments. I'm very receptive and very responsive. And that is it. All right, man. Have a good day. Thank you.